to another episode of Tara's Baddies Club. It's been a minute because I've been dealing with a lot. I've been dealing with mold. My whole house kind of got reconstructed from that. The room, well, really the one room, and then my living room, my kitchen was just in use because I had to put stuff everywhere, and they worked on it for about 3 weeks. So I really had that time. Then I had my Sedona retreat that went really well. I had an amazing time, and everyone else that came had a great time as well. At least they told me so. And then I'm getting the podcast course started back up in June. So that is exciting. Check it out. It's going to be 8 weeks of lives, and then there's already 8 weeks of videos, exclusive videos with other creators in true crime and also survivors that experience podcasting up front. Also, we do have a little bit of a YouTube section going on now as well. So I'm excited for that to start in June. And then today's guest is Michelle Locke. I'm so excited because she is a personal friend. She is an attorney in family law in Texas. And then she also used to be a judge. She is friends with my friend Jake Deptula. He has been on the podcast before, and he created a show with her, Love, Lust, Law. So I'm so excited to have Michelle on today. But just a side note, this episode has been filmed a while back before I was dealing with mold. And so I was really hoping to get it out sooner. But stay tuned for the update at the end because there is an update to the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni trial. So let's get into this episode. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to Tara's Baddies Club. I'm so excited to have you today. We met through Jake Deptula on Love, Lust, Law.
Love Lust Fridays, I think, was our first connection when Jake was, I think, trying to test me out to see if I could do this whole podcasting thing.
Yes. I remember it. I was one of the first people in a sense because we were getting your microphone ready. You just got a new microphone, and I was excited for you because it's exciting whenever someone gets a new microphone, but
Great.
you got to set it up, you got to hook it up, and luckily Jake and I work in podcasting, so we were able to help you figure that out.
We did because, I'm really good at using technology and breaking it. Setting it up is usually a little bit different. But it really was amazing to me when I started into this podcasting journey, just how much a good microphone is absolutely necessary.
Oh, yes. I was actually talking to him about that yesterday about someone different. I was listening to their audio, and I was telling him he needs a new mic. He needs a new mic. He could just spend the money, just spend a few extra $20 on it. The audio is just going to sound so much better.
Well, when Jake and I decided to do the Love Lust Law, I made sure, just for continuity purposes, that we both have the same equipment. So we now have the same microphone. We now have the same camera. We've got, everything's identical. So at least our sound should be the same. But, there's always a little room for improvement no matter what you have or where you do it.
Yes, no, 100%. And it's funny because the audio in me is already picking up on things. If you need any advice ever, I'm always here, but I have practiced not doing unsolicited advice to people.
I can understand that. I could understand why. I will make sure that if I have any questions, I will definitely reach out to you because I know Jake, he has no problems telling me.
Oh yes, but I also have ideas for your YouTube and stuff as well because I was like, I just want to see Michelle on YouTube, so I'll tell you about that later. But I love that I went to Austin as well. We met up there and at Perry's. You took me to Perry's.
I did, which is kind of what I took Jake to as well, which is funny because Jake, as you know, is a vegetarian. And so I think pescatarian because he'll eat some fish. But I'm like, where are we going to go? We're going to go to a steakhouse. Jake's like, okay. But but Perry's has the best fried Gulf shrimp that I've ever had, which is at a random places to have really good fried Gulf shrimp. You would not think a steakhouse, but I gotta tell you, it's really good.
Yeah, no, when I think of good shrimp, I think of Papados.
Oh, I've not been to Papados in forever. That's a good idea.
Right?
They've got some stuffed shrimp that's really good.
Yes, the shrimp there. And then also Fleming's does have some nice shrimp as well.
Yeah, I've not been to Fleming's in a while because Fleming's and Perry's are both at the Domain, and usually they're not very far from each other. But as a general rule, I will frequent Perry's more often.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
you have to have your place. And your son is so set up there. He goes there. He knows what to do. He knows the plays. He's just like, he has his little iPad. That's what you call it.
Yeah, my 10-year-old is probably more comfortable at Perry's than most adults. It's really probably not a good bar for me to set at this age, but I can't eat a whole steak by myself, so he and I always split.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was kind of nervous, not gonna lie, when you said you were bringing your son. I was like, is it gonna are we gonna have adult conversations? And he was just fantastic. I think that when I don't know if you feel this way, but especially since you came from divorce as well, but being a child of divorce, you kind of just grow up a little bit more quicker, or you just kind of get the reeled a little bit better than, say, the average kid.
I think there's for him, there's a lot of resiliency, in part because of the divorce, in part because he was also my older 2 are so much older than him, like, the difference between my middle son and him is a decade. So he's in a lot of ways grown up as an only child and or with a bunch of older siblings. So he can hold a conversation with about anyone. He really can.
Yes.
He's a pretty sweet kid.
And his maturity level is just off the charts, I feel, for his age.
It is, and the funny thing is that you've not he hit a growth spurt since you saw him back in it was in October, I think you saw him because I think I ran Indy, like, the next week when I went out to LA,
Yes.
and so when I went out to LA anyways, he's hitting a growth spurt since then, so he right now is almost eye level with me at 10 years old. I'm like at the end of the school year, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be taller than me, which is really depressing because I'm 5'7", little over 5'7", but my 10-year-old's about to be taller than me.
Oh my gosh.
I
Well, I
know.
feel like that's the age they really hit it.
After 10, they start hitting puberty, and that means I'm gonna lose my sweet little boy because the bigger they get and the more those testosterone hormones they get, the more irrelevant their parents become.
That is true. And the brain actually teaches you to want to not be around your mom as much in order to prevent incest, which, would never be a thing, but that's genetically why the brain starts to make mom a little bit more like you smell bad to him at one point. Like, it's
I just
interesting.
figured he didn't wanna listen to me anymore because he's like, I'm bigger than you, I don't have to listen to you." I'm like, "Alright."
No, it's a science of the brain, and that when they hit that level in the brain, they actually start to reject the smell of their mom.
Awful.
I know, it sucks when especially if you have a boy and you're so close now, but maybe it will still, he'll still be your best friend and he'll not do that.
We'll see, I'm hoping so because he's a very much a mama's boy. My other 2, especially my middle son, although my older son now, but my middle son, like, from the minute hit 13, I was persona non grata. I'm like, "Alright." I figure by 25, they'll get their heads out of their proverbial butts and be much better, but it may take a few more years.
Yeah, it might take till they're like 22, 23, 25, maybe 27, you
Some men
know,
40,
and
some
40.
men never grow up.
Guys, but that what I told you, by the way, is from the male brain. It's like this book about the male brain and actually science factual research about the brain. And that's found it was so interesting because I want to read if I have a son, then I just know why he hates me at a certain point.
They definitely do. They definitely do. It's and then the other thing is there's a certain age where boys just start to stink. Like, I remember my
Yes.
middle son, he had his, 13th birthday party at the house, I had a bunch of friends over, and they were all in, like, the theater room watching a movie, and I opened the door, and it was a waft of stink that came out of that room. I was like, "That is disgusting." So, yeah, there's definitely a point where they smell. I also remember when I lived in the dorms at college, I went to UT Austin, and we lived in what at the time was the biggest dorm in the country. It was so big in population, it had its own zip code. And I lived the floor I was on was a co-ed floor, but the first half was the guys, and the second half of that same floor was the girls. And I remember every time I walked through the first half of to get to my room, I would hold my breath because the entire side of the men's floor smelled so bad. And then you get to the girls' side, and it was much better.
It smells like butterflies, rainbows,
No, I
flowers,
mean,
all the good things.
there was a distinct difference in odors between the first half of that floor and the second half of that floor. The boys were gross. But I remember holding my breath and walking as fast as I could to get to where my dorm was, or my side of the floor, because the boys smelled so bad.
My gosh, that is so funny.
Things that you remember from 20 something years ago. Holy cow.
Yes, well, I love how the conversation developed into boys stink.
They do. They did. They get much better as they get older, but boy, they got some funk.
Yeah, and I
But
think
they're funkalicious for a while.
and then they stink in a different way when they're later.
Yes. Yes, when they're later, but for a while, they're definitely funkalicious. But
God
yeah, so
bless.
we met through Jake, thank goodness, and we both know that Jake is amazing, but then we got to meet, and I really enjoyed when you came out here meeting some of your, I think, followers that, we were at where did we go? Punch Bowl Social, I think?
Yes, Punch Bowl Social. And then for
Yeah.
the people that are listening, there is dogs that keep interrupting, but we love our dogs so much. And if you're watching from the YouTube, now you're seeing Cosmo,
This is
which
Mr.
is
Cosmo.
a Great Dane Mastiff.
He is. He's my service dog. He actually goes with me everywhere, including LA. And so, yeah, he makes an appearance every now and again on my videos. Sorry. But yeah, I'm telling you,
No,
go
don't
to his
ever
spot.
apologize for the dogs. But I also
Cosmo
think it was
spot.
funny leading
Spot.
to LA. I think that it was funny when we went to the restaurant and then he was sitting under the table.
And no one realized he was under this table.
Well, I had his head in my lap.
You
So,
did.
but I wasn't eating because I don't prefer Thai food, but I had a great time with Cosmo in my lap and then just engaging with everyone and getting to see Lindsay. Lindsay came out.
Lindsay came out, and that was a ton of fun. She and I had connected. I think I'd been on her podcast not that long before that. And she's just another wild card and loved her. And she and I, kind of like you and I, just kind of instantly connected. And so it was a great like dinner that we had at that restaurant. And it was funny because I remember when we got up to leave, Cosmo got out from underneath this table. And I think everyone around us was shocked. They're like, was he there the whole time? I'm like, yes, he was there the whole time. That's how you know, kind of like a true service animal is they disappear and you don't really notice they're there until we're leaving. But yeah, no, Cosmo enjoyed LA.
I love that. It was so great.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, so I love when you came out here in LA, you brought Cosmo out, you did a shoot, you had some great photos, and then when are you coming out to LA next?
So sometime in either February or March, it'll either be the end of February, early March. My son has a 2 weeks of spring break in March. And so that may be the best opportunity to come down because I'm gonna come down and have done photo shoot and some meetings. But yeah, no, I plan on coming down, spending some time out there. I actually have family that live out in Ventura. And so
Nice.
this time around I will probably go visit them and spend a little bit of time with them as well.
Oh, nice. Going out to the valley. I
That's
love
right.
that. I love that so much. So I love that we were all able to get together and then Jake was there. What do you guys do with Love Lust Law? I see the nice light in the background.
So I love that sign brings me such happiness. Love Lust Law is the podcast that Jake is my executive producer on, and we started in July of this year. I'm sorry, July of 2025. I keep forgetting we're in 2026. And we use a little bit of my legal expertise. I mean, I'm on my 24th year as a lawyer in Texas. For a period of time, I've served as a judge, served as a judge in a couple of capacities, a municipal court judge, magistrate, and then a full-time family court associate judge. And I think all in all, I was a judge from 2009 to 2010. And then I was a judge again from 2019 until October 2025. I resigned my position at that time because I had too many things on my plate. I had my full-time law practice, which keeps me extremely busy. And then I had the podcasting taking off, and then in the social media aspect of it. And then I was a part-time, full-time judge out for another local city around here. And then I'm also a mom. So I had all these hats and I was really burning the candle on not just both ends, like 5 different ends. And so it was time for the judge gig to go away, and I resigned that position really to open up some more time for me and also not really be restricted in what I could talk about. Because when you're a judge, where you're controlled by the judicial canons and there are certain things you can say, not say, do, not do. And I really didn't want those shackles anymore. And I think in order to do this type of platform, I really needed the ability to talk a little bit more openly on kind of like what happens and what goes on in the court. So Love Less Law is really, we've done a variety of things, but we talked about some high profile celebrity divorces because one of my goals is really to teach the public that it doesn't really matter who you are, what you do, how much money you have, that if you're going through the court system, you're all going through the same thing. And so I explain kind of through some of those high profile cases how the court system works because I think for a lot of people, it's a really scary place to be. Like the last place people want to be is in a courthouse. Typically, if you are in a courthouse, something has gone wrong in your life. And people's first contact with courts is almost always municipal court for traffic tickets or family law court. I mean, those are really the two that if you are part of the general public, you're gonna be in one of those eventually. And so I think it's a good idea to really explain it to people on a very basic non-lawyer level because most lawyers like to talk to make ourselves sound smarter, and so we speak with big words and we use lots of acronyms. And I don't think that helps anyone in the public understand what it is we actually do or what actually happens behind the courtroom doors or in the process leading up to the courtroom. And so I kind of try to explain it in a way that everyone understands and in a way everyone understands so it's not so scary. Right, because it is a scary place. For me, it's like my playground. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to court. That is not the normal person's reaction to going to court at all.
No, no, I just went to court with a survivor probably a month or two ago, and that was scary. And I thought it was interesting too how you're all in the room, you have these different cases, and you may be going over two cases at the same time where one person, it was kind of funny to me actually. One person was there for possession
Mhm.
th they were, they were like, "Okay, you have to do, these amount of hours with, these classes and this and that," and they were like, "How do you plead?" And then they would go to my friend's case and was like, "So this guy was stalking you, doing all this, he put your vagina up on the they didn't use that language, but
But
they
they
were
do
like,
use that language in court.
"Oh, they do?
Like,
Okay."
so now let me tell you, like in especially a lot of my cases, we read text messages in court. And
Yes.
y'all, people are unfiltered in text messages, especially between boyfriends, girlfriends, or partners, whatever relationship, romantic relationship you have. People get unfiltered in their text communications. And so I can't tell you how often we get to read or we get to have the witnesses read really inappropriate text messages in court.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that is so the things
Well, they said it as revenge porn, There
correct.
he
Yeah, revenge porn is a big no-no.
Yes, yes. So they stated that, and then she read her victim impact statement, and I was so proud of her that she did that. But it was really kind of funny to me afterwards, and she thought this was funny too. The guy that had the heroin charge, he came up and he was like, "I am so sorry that you experienced that. That was a terrible guy."
Yeah,
We're
you're like,
like,
"I'm so sorry you went through that." Like, I mean,
it
that's
was
awful.
and so is there for like a heroin charge and stuff, and they're like thinking that this guy is bad. You're like, this is a bad guy. So that was my last court experience. And then I don't know about your thoughts about this, but I did go to court for a using John Meehan's handicap placard.
So you got cited because you used a handicap placard when you weren't handicapped?
Well, I technically was
Allegedly.
handicapped. I had PTSD, and this is what I told them. I was like, I had PTSD from killing the guy that I got his handicap. So I felt like I could use it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably not. Like, I have a handicap placard because I have a note from my doctor that says, "You are disabled."
Like
So, yeah,
Well, I could have gotten a note and I could have gotten a handicap placard during that time for my PTSD. But in my mind, I was thinking, I don't have to go that route. He died, so I just get it, right? But no, no, but that was the last thing I had to go to court for. And I
Well, that
feel
was a
like,
while ago though, right?
yes, like 9 years ago. And
Okay, yeah, it
I
was a while ago.
felt like the judge would have got a kicked out of that. Would you have got a kick out of that as a judge, or do you have to have a straight face the whole time?
Judges are supposed to be impartial and fair, and then not do anything that would reflect negatively on the judiciary. And so I think as a general rule, they're very serious for the most part all the time. But every now and again, there are some facts where you laugh inadvertently, not because you're trying to be rude, but because it's hard to be serious all the time and not have some levity. And so every now and again, there is some levity in the courts that it's unintentional, but it makes everyone laugh. And sometimes that's very much needed. I think there is some real big irony between you using his handicap placard and what happened with him. I think that is very ironic.
Well, it was after he died too,
I,
you
I
know?
had put that together, but it was just ironic.
Yeah, and I showed up on the wrong dates too. I showed up early, which was better for me, and then
No,
I
showing
was
up early
like,
is actually better.
"Okay." And then I was like they're like, "Oh, it's next weekend." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll be back next weekend then."
Yeah, you're like, okay. Now, I will tell you this, when I had people show up early for court, like the wrong date, but they had come anyways, traveled to court to do it. I always tried with the prosecutor. I'm like, hey, can we go ahead and handle the case since we're already here? Like, so I know I always went out of my way to accommodate if someone showed up early and on a day they weren't scheduled. I'm like, well, you've made the trip. Thank you for coming. Let's see if we can figure this out and get it handled today. So I usually tried to make a really good attempt if someone was early like you were, and they weren't supposed to be there that day. Like, well, let's see if we can resolve it and then kind of go from there.
Okay. Well, that would have been kind because that was a 4-hour drive, but I
They
was
made you come
happy to go
back.
back. Yes, but I was happy to go back because I get that you shouldn't use someone else's handicap placard, and I took responsibility for that, even though I do think it's ironic and kind of funny in a sense. I get that, I shouldn't have done that because that is against the law and you could go and do it the correct way. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, you're not supposed to use someone else's placard. Like because and there are times, I mean, even though like so I have a permanent disability on my license plate. I don't even have a placard anymore. I just have the disability plate. But on days when I'm feeling okay, I don't go park in a handicap spot. I mean, I think it just for me it depends because there are some days where some people really, really need it. And I gotta tell you, there's been days where I know I needed it and all the handicap spots were gone. So that can be frustrating. But yeah, like even on days where I'm like, okay, I feel fine, then
Yeah.
I'll go park in regular space.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for me it was right after my attack. It was scary to park,
Absolutely. For
you
good
know?
reason.
Yeah, so I would wanna get in and out of my car as quickly as possible, but now I don't need that whatsoever. Now I can go park somewhere, walk, and I might get a little bit triggered here and there, but it's not the same where everything was so heightened at first. But that's why I needed it for
Well,
the
that makes sense.
and that was my justification in my head, even though that was not the right way to use it. And it was also at Stagecoach where I needed that year. It was really interesting
I
because
don't
I
know what
needed
stagecoach is, sorry.
Okay, so Stagecoach is a festival, a country festival. It's like Coachella, but for Californians. It's at the same spot and it's a huge festival. The Secret Lives of the Mormon Wives were all at it this year. I'm obsessed with
Oh,
them. They are very interesting to me.
that's a way to put it.
Yeah, so I it's a big festival and there's a lot of people around you. So I wanted to be in the places where there was less people in order to not get heightened and triggered during those situations. So I used it in that case. But, learn lesson. I don't need to do that. I don't, but it's kind of a funny story. I'm going to tell it in the book later too. And then, yeah, but like I thought it would be funny. Like if you got that case as a judge, you would just be like, it might be like a nice relief to have that.
It's one that I would definitely, like, afterwards go, "Wow." Out of, like, things on my bingo card today for cases I was gonna hear, that wasn't one of them. For
Yeah.
sure. For
I
sure.
also got my car stuck in a volleyball court one time.
I'm sure there's a story behind that.
Yeah, I let my ex-boyfriend one of my ex-boyfriends drive my car, and I was 18 or 17, and we were young and dumb, and I let him drive my car, and he didn't have his license, so when the cop came up, I was like, "I was driving, and I was a little intoxicated," so the cop kinda saw that, looked at the seat, and he was like, "You were not driving."
You're like,
So,
"Nope."
yeah, I was like, "Yeah," but I was so loyal to my boyfriend at the time, and then the ticket was for riding or driving an animal or vehicle in a park.
I mean, out of all things that could have happened conceivably for charges, that was a pretty good result.
Yes,
Right,
yes. No,
that's a good you got lucky on that one.
I was thankful, but I thought it was funny that, like, riding an animal, that was, like, a part of the ticket because it was, like, part of that one section. So if you would've got any of my cases as a judge, I feel like you would be just, like, laughing and just be like, "This girl's a hot mess."
Yeah, I'd probably say, "Lord, how do we fix this and get her on her way?" Because and when you do criminal work, I did criminal defense work before, early on in my career, and there are definitely, like, repeat offenders. There's definitely a criminal element to society that I don't think most people really realize unless you're involved in the criminal justice system. And you would not be one of those that would meet any of those kind of criteria. It'd be like,
Okay.
she's here, she really shouldn't be. She did a couple of dumb things. Like, let's just teach her what not to do and send her on her way.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that's kind of what I would think about your case. Even if I defended you, I'd be like, Judge, she's really sweet. She messed up. Can we just, like, she'll pay a fine. Can we just go on? Like, you won't see her back again, I promise. I had other defendants where I'm like, yeah, you're likely going to see my client again. Probation's not a good option for him because he won't make probation. I mean, like,
Oh my god.
And I remember handling those cases, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, probably needs a jail sentence to keep him off the streets. You, on the other hand, it's like, God bless.
When you represent those guys, though, do you get irritated and you're like, "Why am I representing him? He's just gonna be back?"
No, actually,
No?
no.
Okay.
When I represented criminal defendants,
Okay.
you have to have a little bit of a different mindset because it's not necessarily, some people think, oh, well, your job is to get them off. No, that's not my job. My
Okay.
job is to ensure, and I say he just as a general placeholder, could be he, she, who they, could be whoever it is that's in front of the court, and whatever their pronoun is they use. But I just found it was mostly men that I ended up representing. And for me, it was ensuring that their constitutional rights were protected and that the system handled their case fairly and appropriately, given all the facts and circumstances that surrounded the various offense that they had been charged with. The best example I can give is I had a kid that was 17, 18. So in Texas, you can be charged as an adult in the criminal justice system once you turn 17. I don't know about anyone else, but I've raised 3 boys, and 17-year-old boys are not smart. I don't care what their IQ is, okay? They make stupid, bad decisions, and their friends make stupid, bad decisions. And their life shouldn't be ruined because of that. Now, if they have an extensive juvenile history because they've been getting arrested since age 10, that's a different story. We had back in the day, I remember my ex-husband telling me when was a juvenile prosecutor, 10-year-olds doing drive-bys on bicycles. Okay. I mean, so there definitely are some bad apples, but this particular client, I was court appointed to represent him. And the funny story is, to this day, I've been doing this for 24 years, this gentleman still reaches out to me to tell me thank you for the job I did for him because I was the only one that gave him a chance and told him, like, this is your get out of jail free card. You got probation, stay off it, it'll get dismissed. The case did get dismissed. He ended up going on into the military, having a family, a wife and a family, and he still has reached out to me. I mean, he's actually followed me from far West Texas out to Central Texas, and every now and again, I get a, "Thank you so much for saving my life." So when I did criminal defense work, it was more about that. It was more about really pursuing the justice because there are some people that deserve to go away, but we're gonna make sure that law enforcement followed all of the procedures and protocols and their constitutional rights were protected, and then we go from there. But to me, doing criminal defense work in some ways was great, and in some ways was there are some bad people that have to go away, but we're still gonna make sure that they get a fair trial. That's how I viewed
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think that's really cool that you put it that way and even shared that story because, a part of like the system and stuff is to be reprimanded for what you did. And hopefully you learn from it, grow from it, and don't do it again. And it sounded like for him, I think that it's really cool at times to maybe represent adolescents and people that are below 18 because you have so much ahead of you that you can change.
You can.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in, and I really am a big believer that you do the crime, you do the time, you get to start over. I mean, not everyone learns, right? The system should, in some ways, about reformation, reforming people so that they don't go out and break the laws again. But if you have been accused of a crime, did a crime, and did what the court said you should to redeem yourself, then you should get to redeem yourself and get to be given that opportunity. And so that really is kind of how I in my life. It's like people screw up. Like you can't necessarily judge someone by their past, right? You can look at their past and go, well, they did that or they did this, but your past isn't what necessarily defines you. It's what you do from this point forward that can define you. And you can always change who you are, what you've done at really at any point. I mean, you can decide, you know what, Tara, from this day forward, I'm not going to do this anymore. But I do. I believe in second chances. I believe in do overs. I don't think that a mistake you made when you were younger should ruin the rest of your life for you. There are some certain exceptions, murder, like there are some bad things. But I will tell you this, I think even someone that murders someone can be reformed. There are always exceptions, like the serial killers, right? You're not reforming them. But yeah, and maybe that makes me like my head in the clouds and not really basing in reality, but I've sat in the courtroom when the death sentence has been read on multiple occasions. That is something I will never forget. I've been in a courtroom where a defendant was being sentenced, not my client. I was watching in the galley. And the defendant, as the jury was reading the verdict for sentencing, jumped on the counsel table, jumped into the jury box to try and escape through the side door by the judge. And there was another attorney from back in the benches where I was sitting that literally jumped over the pews, over into the jury box and armbarred the defendant to the ground. So I will say I've seen it all. I haven't quite seen everything, but I've seen a fair amount. And I've seen the bad people. I've seen, I'll never forget this case. And this one, he got the death sentence on this case. This gentleman between his size 14 foot and a 19-month-old baby stomped on this little boy so hard that it severed every organ in this baby's body. He got the death sentence. Whether you believe in the death sentence or not, at least from my perspective, I think that one was so wholly deserved. And I remember sitting in court watching this defendant who there wasn't any doubt he did it. There was no doubt he did it. Didn't even register on this guy's face. Didn't even register. Something like that's probably not going to be redeemed. So there are bad apples, but I think as a general rule, there are ones that screw up and figure out, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, that's my
Wow, that
soapbox for the day.
well, you made me cry because that is a horrific story.
But I really like the cases I've seen. I mean, I saw a woman that got her, met this guy on a date and she had some bad vibes about him. And he took her back to his apartment because they were gonna go to another party together. And she had met him just that night. And she had some like gut bad feelings about it, but went with him back into his apartment anyways, just to go grab some stuff so they could go to the party. She walked into his apartment and he slit her throat. And the story is much, much worse. She lived, thank God. But the stuff, and actually it's one of the reasons why I left the full-time bench, being a full-time judge, because I handled I handled two courts, the domestic violence court and the child protective services court. So I've seen a 3-week-old that was put in a microwave. Like, the stuff I've seen, you can't unsee, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I just there's only so much he punched me, he kicked me, he choked me that you can hear before it starts to lose some of its impact, and that is a bad place to be. And so that's actually one of the reasons why I stopped being a full-time judge, and I said, "Let me go back to the courtroom where I can just cross-examine people for fun."
Yeah.
I say that tongue in cheek, but I really being a judge and making those hard calls, I know lots of people think it's easy to be a judge. It's easy to wear that black robe. And I was probably one of those younger people that maybe thought that because I think when I became a judge for the first time, oh, goes in 2009. So I was 31, 32. I mean, relatively a baby. And I remember, I think I used to work overnight shifts 'cause I was did night magistrate work, so literally night court. And I remember I signed a warrant for I said $1 million bond for a son who killed his mother because his mother had discovered he was sleeping with his stepsister. And I remember signing $1 million bond for that guy and a search warrant for his place and some other things. But yeah, it's not easy. If you were doing the job correctly, listen, there's bad doctors, there's bad teachers, there's bad janitors, there's bad nurses, there's bad in every profession. Not every profession's everyone fabulous. That's just because we're all human. And so there's going to be not great judges, just like there's going to be some excellent judges. But I will tell you, as a general rule, I think the most of the people that go to be judges go with the absolute best intentions and want to do the right thing. But I know taking that black robe on is a huge responsibility because you're making the calls that are affecting the very fabric of our society. And when, especially if you're doing like family law, I mean, you're deciding where people get who gets what money, who gets what time with their own kids. I mean, as a family law judge, you're deciding. I mean, that is truly the very fabric of our society. You get to make decisions on, and that's a huge responsibility. And I know it was not easy. There were absolutely cases that I woke up the next morning going, "What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" It's not easy, but I think the majority that do that wear the black robe, really try and do the right thing, contrary to, I think, what some in the public think. I think as a general rule, they're good people doing a really hard job, and similar to teachers, they don't get paid a whole heck of a lot of money.
Yeah. No, and I think that something you touched on is seeing the most horrific cases. And unfortunately, because of my story and because of me being surrounded by so many survivors, I've heard the worst of the worst as well.
Yep.
And it even goes into something that I want to talk about, the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case. But first, did you see the movie Housemaid?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Is
so
I don't think so.
trigger warning if you do see it, because
Okay.
it is some of the worst situations. Spoiler alert for anyone going to see, there is a major plot twist and the guy ends up being the guy that's like the coercive controlling guy. And it's funny because I see it in the beginning because of that dark triad character, and there's little things that they do to, and like at least in the beginning, that show you like little signs of their controlling vibes. But just for even so, that movie is basically domestic violence, coercive control. However, the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively movie is all about domestic violence as well. And I think that it's interesting, the two different movies, how one is getting ridiculed in a sense, and then the Housemaid movie is not even being reprimanded or anything for not talking about domestic violence.
Yeah, so I think covered the Blake Lively, and I did a two-part series on it. My focus was a little bit more on the litigation side, right? Like why each was suing which and the kind of background that gave rise to it. What a hot mess that case was for so many reasons and still is. And I know when I did it was that I was really team Justin until I did my two-part series and I really switched to team Blake, which I really, going into it, never thought in a million years I'd been on Team Blake for various reasons and thought processes before. But when you dive into it, it was she was put into a very bad position by someone that had control over too many aspects of that production. And that created a dynamic that became untenable. And then really then at some point became unsolvable. And so now they wanted the courts to go litigate it, which makes it no fun for anyone knows anything about litigation, being in a lawsuit is not fun. Unless you have a personality disorder, then you may love the fight of litigation. But as a general rule, healthy people don't like to fight in court. It is not a fun arena to be in. But they're duking it out, I guess. And the problem is with it, the case status changes so much. And then there's multiple lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions, which makes it that much more complicated to track down. And then it's the production company versus individual people and then PR firm. I mean, I'm just glad I'm on the sidelines, not involved.
Right? I think that it's really interesting to say the least because there's been so many sides and even that movie from the start there was people saying stuff about Blake Lively about that she shouldn't be Lily, that she's not the great character for Lily. They were ridiculing her on how she dressed, which
That
I'm
was
like,
part
why?
why, because not like she had control over costume design for the movie. One thing I really didn't like about when this first lawsuit first came out is how they went over her dating history. Because how is her dating history and who she's dated, whether her co-stars or not, relevant to what happened in this movie? Like, to me, it's the classic slut shaming, for lack of a better word. And I hate using that word, but that's what they did. It was, well, she didn't have any credibility because of her dating history. Seriously? Like if your credibility is based on who you dated for a woman, then why isn't the converse true for men? Because man, we could go through the list of some of who these men have dated and whether that they should lose credibility because of that. I mean, that was the only, well, not one of the only things, but that in particular offended me because how often when you're a woman is it you slept your way to your job. They criticize you. It's because you're a whore, you're a slut, you're whatever else. Or if you didn't spread your legs, you wouldn't have gotten this. I mean, it always goes to that as opposed to, well, maybe she's a smart, competent woman who can do her job. But
Yeah.
instead, let's just discredit her because of her dating history. That really drove me nuts.
Same. And then I think that it was crazy that they were even going through her past and picking out people that didn't like her
Right.
and had issues with her when I'm sorry, but you're not going to get along with everyone you meet.
Welcome to the real world. Like, probably like you, people that meet me either love me or hate me. There's no in between. I can assure you, if people go out, like the media goes out and says, oh, I want to find out all the people that hate Michelle Locke, you're going to hear a lot of terrible things that may or may not be true. I mean, that's the thing. Because the people that don't like you, they're going to say whatever it is they want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, like you and me, we are strong and we're present. And sometimes when you come in like that, you're like, whoa. But then you get to know us and you realize there's a lot more to us than like who we have to be and present at times.
Correct. Like it is. Everyone knows me. Well, not everyone. Most people know me as the lawyer and as the person in the courtroom, which is entirely different than the person you met when we were sitting at that Thai food restaurant in LA. I mean, I'm a ton of fun. I'm a softie by heart. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but in that courtroom, no, I don't. I don't.
When I met you at Fleming's, I really got to know you on a deeper level. And I really appreciated that because I did think, like, oh, I'm meeting you from a lawyer standpoint. And I was like, okay, like, I was like, she's strong. She's a strong woman. We didn't get to connect fully other than Jake. And then that moment we got to connect and like realize, wow, I just really like her as a person.
Yeah, it's when you remove the lawyer mask.
Yeah.
One of my good friends always tells me, he's like, when you come home, can you please leave the lawyer at the door? And I'm like, I'm not making any promises, but I'll try. Or I get it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Can you please not use, it's either epically or therefore or wherein or one of my typical lawyer words. And he's like, it's not even 8 o'clock. please, please no lawyer words. Again, I'll try. I'm not promising. But then the worst part is my 10-year-old, and my other boys did it too. But my 10-year-old says stuff that I'm like, no normal 10-year-old says this ever, ever. But it's because he listens to me all the time. I remember, oh God, my oldest, he was 3 years old. He tells me, Mom, it's not up for discussion. At 3 years old, I'm like, you listen to me way too much. But
Well,
anyways,
they take on the traits of their parents, so
they do, which makes for some fun arguments when they're teenagers.
you're like, "Am I arguing against myself?"
No, it's awful. It's awful. Then because my ex-husband was a prosecutor for 30 years, so it was a double whammy of, I can't tell you how many times I cross-examined my kids when they were lying about homework. So they may have picked up a skill set here or there.
With your kids, do you have to let certain things slide at times because you're like, "I'm too smart, you can't pull anything past me, but I might let that one slide for a minute?"
As a general rule, parents pick their battles,
Yeah.
especially as kids get older. And it's almost like in marriage. Like in marriage, you can't pick every battle. Like there's some you got to let the other side win. And I am very much like that. I'm like, you can't pick every battle with them. And then the older they get, and now they're both adults, I really can't pick any battles with them because if I pick a battle with them now, they just won't see me because they have that right at their age to not see their parents. And they are also that generation of, and whoever came up with this,
The boundaries?
the boundaries, and I'm going to cut off my parents because for whatever various reasons, the whole no contact with your parents theme, I could wring the neck of the person that came up with that and said it's a good idea. I understand.
I know one person that thought it was a great idea, but guess what? That person goes back and forth with arguing with their mom, letting them back in their life, and figuring out that situation. And she wrote about it in her book, The Holistic Psychologist. But I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's just like ugh, I have issues with it because part of the problem is what I have seen, at least in my own experience, is that they are using it as a escape for accountability. And so it's my parents are trying to hold me accountable. My parents are trying to make me a good, independent adult. And because I don't like what they're telling me, I'm going to cut off contact. It's not, I mean, with abuse and other things, okay,
Yeah.
whole different story. But they're cutting off, I think, in some of the cases I've seen, it has nothing to do with legitimate reasons to have no contact. It is coming because they don't want the accountability that comes with talking to their parents. But ooh, yeah, I'm going to cut off my parents. My parents said, and I always go back to this. If you've got good parents and a relatively good childhood, I mean, everyone's going to have some issue with their childhood, right? Because
Yes.
no person is perfect. Parenting does not come with a manual. There is no, perfect way to parent because each kid has their own personality traits. I mean, a whole host of things. But for the kids as they're early 20s to say, well, you did it wrong, and so I'm not going to talk to you because you got this wrong. I'm like, where's the grace for anything? Like people make mistakes. You can apologize and move forward, but anyways, like I'm having an issue with my oldest in particular right now, and I'll never forget the conversation because I'm currently paying for his car, a very nice car he drives, and his car insurance. And he's now resorted to calling me by my first name instead of calling me mom.
Oh,
And
Michelle?
he's not doing it to yeah, 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 oh yeah, oh no, oh yeah, and he's not doing it to my face. I'll give him the credit for at least not doing that. But again, I've only seen him twice in the last 2 months. But he's doing it in front of my 10-year-old. I have a real problem with that. And then I have a real problem because my ex-husband is allowing him to do so in front of my 10-year-old. So that's a whole other issue. And so I got in a discussion with my oldest about it. He's like, well, I was considering going no contact with you. So it's either I call you Michelle or it's no contact. And I said, well, I'm going to make the call for you. I'm going no contact until you can just to learn to have some respect for the person that did everything for you in your life. And quite frankly, is still supporting you. Because, when you're a parent and when you have kids, about everything you do for your children you don't gain from.
Yeah.
You do things for your children because you love them. You want them to do better than you did in life. Like that's what you want, what you need, or what they need. You want them to be better than you. You want them to get an education. You want them not to make the same mistakes you made. And that has somehow turned into you shouldn't have made any mistakes. Your apologies don't matter. And so I'm going to disrespect you and call you by your first name. And there was nothing that I did. I mean, this kid had a good childhood, good childhood. I mean, there were some issues as my husband and I were breaking up the last 5 years. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It was a toxic marriage. I should have gotten out much sooner. I think even my ex will say that. Like, it was not a good marriage towards the end. And it was also COVID through,
Yeah.
like COVID hit 2020, and COVID wasn't good for anyone. I mean, substance abuse increased during COVID, divorce rates skyrocketed through COVID, domestic violence. I mean, COVID was not good for our public,
Yeah.
but there's just no forgiveness for it. And it's just, I'm this terrible, terrible person and you'll never forgive. And I'm like, okay. And it's everything I've done for him I haven't benefited from any of it. And they also have this belief, and I don't understand this at all. Well, I didn't ask to be brought into this world, so you owe me.
We all like are born.
No, but no, I'm not kidding you. This generation, they're like, I don't even know what they're called, what generation they are, but one's 22, one's 20. I've actually had the 22-year-old tell me that. Well, I didn't ask to be born into this world.
So
I'm
you
like,
didn't ask to be here
so
in
I'm so
life?
support you. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm supposed to support you forever because you didn't ask to be brought into this world. Okay.
Well, and did he want to be a squirrel? Did he want to be a rabbit, a dog? What was the other choice?
He wanted to take a year off after high school as a gap year. And I said, over my dead body, you're not doing it. If you're going to live at home, which he did, and you graduated from high school, you are going to do something. I don't care if it's a vocational program. My ex-husband's a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. My grandfather was a doctor. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. My other grandmother was a college art professor. And then my other grandparents, my one grandmother didn't work, and my grandfather, blue collar, worked for Canadian National Railway until he retired. But he was going to do something. And so I gave him options, and he finally chose EMT.
Okay.
He got kicked out of the EMT program first round through because he applied his same study skills from high school to that. And he learned that was not an effective way to study. So he learned from it. And that was probably the first like really big learning lesson he got where he was like, oh, wait, I can't keep doing it the way I've been doing it all along because there are consequences to it. So then he did the class again, passed the national EMT exam like at 18 years old, and then went into paramedic school and completed paramedic school in an accelerated program in 18 months and became a paramedic and passed the national paramedic exam at 20. Exceptionally smart child. Well, young man, exceptionally smart. I've always known he's exceptionally smart, but he's done some dumb things in his life, right? And I know I have told him that was stupid. You shouldn't do that. He has now turned it into, I belittled him his entire life. I'm like, I didn't belittle you. He's like, well, you called me names. I'm like, I never called you names. I said, you did stupid things. That's not calling you stupid. And I said, and in fact, all I've ever said is how smart you are. And then he was like, well, you call me lazy. I'm like, you were lazy. You even admitted you were lazy. I'm like, how is stating a fact me belittling you? I mean, I don't know if it's social media that's killed their brains and their common sense, but Lord have mercy.
So there is like a big thing, and especially guys in particular, a lot of them are more so avoidant, where the best thing is to like block. I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to move on. And I have done coaching for mothers and their kids before.
Eh,
I mean, the kid hates me because the kid's like, my mom wanted me to come to this today and I don't want to be here. And the best thing I hate to say this, Michelle, but the best thing my mom did for me was cut me off. And that is the hardest thing because they have to figure out their footwork. You don't know what to do when you're the kid in that situation, but you grow and you figure it out. And then there's like little times where you're like, okay, let me help you out with this because I see you're struggling and I see you're trying and you respect where your money comes from a little bit more now because you know that it's not just falling off the tree.
yep.
And but I also say the best thing with my mom, I killed her husband tried to kill me. That was complicated. And having these conversations, and when my mom And it's so different from you because, like, your husband didn't try to kill your son.
No, did not. Did not, thank goodness. That'd have been a problem.
Yeah, but in the moments where I've had my breakthroughs throughs with my mom, it's my mom being completely vulnerable and being like, "You know what? Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm owning up to that, and I'm sorry the way it came across, but I really need you to try to understand that I was doing the best I could as a parent and how
Right,
much I love you."
right.
You know?
And I'm the first one to own, yeah, there are some
Yeah,
things I shouldn't have done. There are some things I owed you an apology for, and the thing is I have. I
yeah,
have said, "I'm sorry." I have
yeah,
said, "I'm sorry," because I truly am. Like, there was a couple moments that were bad decisions there, but there are a couple moments he wants me to apologize for, and I'm like, "No. I had every right to do what I did given the facts and circumstances at that particular time." I said,
yeah,
"It's really easy to say hindsight's 20/20, and you should have done it this way."
yeah,
But the stuff that I've screwed up on, I'll own it. I've done some
yeah.
st there were some moments where I should have been better, but as a general rule, my kid had a pretty damn good pretty
Well, and
privileged.
it seems like it, and that's definitely the things that I've taken for granted with my mother is her supporting me, and I lived such a privileged life, and when you get your own bills and you have to handle that all, you're like, "I love my mom so much, she was so helpful."
Well, I know, and it's the rude awakening when it's like, "Oh, shit, I gotta do this myself, okay." I'm like, "Wait,
Yeah.
budget? I got a budget? Crap."
Yeah, but, like, you are a great mom. You like, even just seeing you interact with your kid and, like, I'm going back to, like, my mind as a movie, just watching you with your son, and even him being in LA, just the gentle nature of him. I think that each child, and you read this in the books as well, each child has a different experience with you as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's
And
very, very true, and it's very
yeah.
different having a child. I think I was 26 and 28 when I had my first 2, and then I was 37 or 38. 30 I just turned 38 when I had my 3rd.
Okay.
There's a huge difference in 38 and 28 for having kids. I mean, there just is, and I'd then raised at that point my husband's 2 girls, and they were 3 and 5 when they came into my life. Now, and I was 23. So, I mean, I've spent 2 decades, a little over 2 decades raising children, and I'm a better parent sitting here today than I was back then, but it's because it's through trial and error. Like, there is no handbook, there is no perfect way to do it, and part of the reason why there's no perfect way to do it is because each kid is different. Each kid
Yeah.
requires a different way to parent. I mean, that's just the reality of it, and we are limited by the tools we were raised with, right? Like, I know
Yeah.
I had on one end, my mother was amazing, did the best she could given her skill set, and my father did the piss poor job, but that's because of his upbringing. And so we each come to the table with our own different experiences, biases, and what we think is appropriate based on our childhood and try to either change, improve, modify, or do better. But man, there's no grace for it right now. It's like, nope, you screwed up. You're persona non grata. I'm like, okay. And
Well,
then as an adult, they get to go live their lives. And you know what?
yeah.
I'm now at the point now where I'm like, I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to worry about myself and my 10-year-old. If they need me, I will be there. I'm not gonna be there financially for them, but I will be there for emotional support, um, until they can figure some things out, and that was not when I had children what I had hoped was gonna happen. I'd hoped for the happy family Christmases and Thanksgivings and vacations, but my family path is a little bit of a different path right now, and so, I guess the other thing we learn is sometimes different paths are okay. Just because
Yeah.
it's not the white picket fence that we thought it was gonna be growing up, just because it's not that doesn't mean we failed.
Yeah. Well, and then I've seen you've done so much in your life and created so many beautiful things and helped so many people. You have even helped out a survivor recently for me that I sent to you that needed help getting a restraining order. And I think that when you are that woman, there is gonna be conflicting views. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, sometimes your sons may have certain opinions, but it doesn't negate what you did, and they eventually will see that.
I think they will. I also know, biology, all things aside, the prefrontal cortex, particularly in boys, does not become fully developed until around 25. Both of mine are still under 25. And I remember the older I got in my 20s, the smarter my parents got. And well, I think we'll get there eventually. I think it's going to take them a little bit of time, and that's okay. I mean, I love them with all my heart. Hearing my oldest call me by my first name, that he was doing that, that was a knife to the heart. That was rough. But you know what? And I hadn't talked about this a lot on my own podcast, is life is a journey.
Yeah.
And that journey is what we make of it, what we take from it. And at the end of our lives, we get to look back on that journey and figure out if we're proud of what we did on that journey. And so while it's currently not on the path that I wanted it to be on, I'm just going to pivot like I do when I'm in court and something comes out of left field, and we'll navigate it the best we can and continue on this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then I think it's funny how we started talking about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and we're getting into pop culture cases. But I think your life is so, and I think honestly, I think people's lives are so interesting compared to like what's going on in the public at times.
You can't make up fiction like reality. That is the
Yes.
God's honest truth. You hear stories or I hear stories, I'm like, and you can't make it up. Like, there's no way to make up some of these stories. Like, truth is way better than fiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then I think that it's so cool that you're repivoting. But you still like, when I was on Austin, I didn't realize that one of your sons worked at the restaurant that we went to,
Yeah.
and then I was like, "Who's that guy you, like, have a weird interaction with?"
Son.
And it's I think that for me, I at least saw that even though you're doing your own thing as a parent right now, you're still showing up.
You have to. I mean, you've got to be there for
Yeah.
your kids. They may not want you there all the time, but and then sometimes you give them their space. Like, I remember my middle son, the one you met at Perry's because he works there. He did wrestling for a short period of time in high school. And I always wanted to go to one of his wrestling matches, and he refused. He's like, "You are not to come." You have to respect that. I don't think he wanted me to see him in a singlet, but that's a whole different story. But he was like, "You can't go." And my ex-husband, he didn't want either one of us to go to any of his wrestling tournaments. And you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, "Are you sure? We'll go." "Nope, don't want you there." "Okay."
Yeah. My mom is not allowed at my nephew's basketball games, but that's
"Why is
because my
that?"
mom embarrasses him. Well, not embarrasses him. He sees her in the stand and then he gets distracted because he wants to do his best and instead he gets in his nervous energy and then he doesn't do well.
"Okay, well, that makes sense." Like, it's like, "Grandma, if you can sit here and be quiet, then okay."
But even that, he sees her and then he's like, "Oh, grandma's here.
Oh,
Mama's here."
well, but you know what? And your mom needs to respect those boundaries, right? I mean, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
family dynamics are always something extra because I don't care, and this goes back to some of the cases I've covered, like Justin Baldoni or Brad and Angelina, or Charlie Sheen and any of his exes. But every family has its own dynamic. Every single family. Doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you don't have. There's always going to be a dysfunction of some sort in a family, and that is family. And it's how you manage it, deal with it, address it, that helps keep families together or not. And some of this new generation, my concern is their answer is, we're not even going to try. We're just going to walk away. And I think that's problematic because
Yes.
family is figuring it out together.
Well, and I agree. I agree that you don't have to be friends with all your family members, but put boundaries around them and see, okay, I can meet up with my mom for maybe an hour every Tuesday. That's
Right.
what I can do and start with, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I know. But just to say, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I don't know. I don't think it's smart, but to each their own. And we will navigate it the best we can, and I'm gonna keep plugging along and doing what I'm supposed to do, and we'll gotta go from there. Like, I cried yesterday, I'm okay today, and like I said, we just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and that's what I mean, I talk about it all the time. You just Even days where it stinks, you just get up and keep going, keep plugging forward because it can't you will never always be at the top of your game. You will never always be at the bottom. It's like a roller coaster. You just gotta keep going on.
True. True that. Well, I think that is perfect to end on. But before we go, do you have any three tips for anyone going through a situation like this with their family member where someone's not talking to them?
Couple things and quick ones. Number 1, words matter. Be careful what you say because words in some regards are much worse than bruises. So be mindful of that. There are number 2, there are very few absolutes in life. Death, pregnancy, taxes, those are absolutes. Everything else, there's a solution to. You just gotta figure out what the solution is. And probably 3, breathe, because this too shall pass.
Well, where can we find you on social media? And if you're okay with just sticking around for 2 more minutes to just do something on the Patreon, maybe we'll go over the Blake Lively case a little bit more.
Absolutely. I'm easy to find. I'm an attorney, Michelle Locke on Instagram. Just remember my mother spelled my name with 1 L, not 2 in Michelle. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me on my podcast page. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you find your podcasts. Podcast is Love, Lust, Law. Tune in. It's gives you some interesting perspectives on various celebrity cases, and then really it's just some various life stories that my executive producer and I talk about when we do what we call our Love, Lust, Raw episodes. But tune in. I think you'll enjoy.
Beautiful. And thank you. We'll continue for the Patreon. Thank you for listening to today's episode with Michelle Locke. If you want more information on the podcasting course, please email me at terranewellcoaching@gmail.com. And then also an update to the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni trial. If you're listening on Patreon, today is May 6th, Wednesday, May 6th. And there has been a settlement in the trial this week. But if you are not listening to it, you're listening to it on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else, YouTube, then you know that it happened last week if you are staying up to date. So there was a settlement last week with the Justin Baldoni trial and Blake Lively trial. They settled. And so we don't really know much information other than that. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll do another update if there's any more updates, and I'll get that episode out a lot sooner. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed meeting Michelle Locke today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a great review, 5 stars. It always helps in growing the algorithm. And especially when we have on survivors, it really helps to get their story seen a lot. It really helps to get the survivor story seen. So until next time, I'm Tara Newell, and thank you so much for listening to Tara's Baddies Club. Bye, baddies.